consideration around us, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. Can we please have a roll call?
Mrs. Shute?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mrs. Donello?
Here.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Augustine?
Here.
Mr. Fodor?
Present.
Mr. Hack?
Here. We need a agenda approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to make an adjustment to the, or amendment to the agenda
Okay.
to add an executive session being held in accordance with Article 2, Section 6.1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official of the city. That's the first amendment. And then the second amendment would be to add under committee reports, we'd like to have an update on the senior meeting.
Great.
So,
Can I have a motion to approve the amended
a
agenda?
second.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes.
Motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second?
Mrs. Donello?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes, agenda approved. Invocation tonight will be given by Tom Fitzgerald, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Holy ones, you have given us the responsibility of leadership in the affairs of our city. May what we say and do here this night be worthy in your sight and for the benefit of those who have entrusted to us this duty. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This part is our public comments for visitors. We will now recognize visitors. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak.
Point of order.
Minutes, workshop. We had a workshop on November 18th, and we had a regular meeting at 11:18. Everyone was in attendance. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve work session and regular meeting minutes from 11/18/19.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donello?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes. We will move into our public comments now. We will recognize visitors. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. When called upon, please use the podium. Clearly state your name and address into the microphone. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Any dialogue must be conducted through me as president of council. Although your comments or questions be addressed to the council, administration, or whole. Who wants to say? Can anyone on this side? Okay, amen. Name and address, please.
My name is Mannon Rupa Watson. I live at 324 Rockwood Drive, in Hazel. And I'm here to personally address the council about the routine disturbances that my neighborhood has enduring since due to the intense use of Jack Britt Memorial Stadium and Kiwanis Recreation Park. We've all previously received related emails and a copy of the petition signed by 64 residents adjacent to the stadium, so I don't think I need to give you a lot of background on the issue. But I do want to mention that when the stadium was built and when we first purchased our home, noise disturbances were not a problem. But given the current situation, my family and I expect most people would never consider purchasing a home in our neighborhood. The following are the specific changes necessary to resolve the consistent disturbances. Number 1, move the speakers. 2, specify the source of sounds that are properly accepted under section 539.10 and recognize that sporting events are not music events. Number 3, clarify the type of events that are properly accepted under section 539.10. The exceptions should be limited to genuine community-centered events. Number 4, actively comply with code 539.070B. Do not indiscriminately throw events under 539.10. One individual in the city government ought to be responsible for routinely reviewing the entire schedule. The ordinance ought to specify a reasonable limit on the number of exceptions, and consideration should be given to impact on home values. Number 5, also in accordance with 539.07B, affected residents must be provided with a full schedule. Number 6, There should be a discussion about reasonable hours of use for the stadium, and affected residents must be included. Along those lines, Lake Erie College should at least consider alternate practice sites like the old Harvey High School site. Number 7, we should not be subjected to cussing, for example, from coaches at any hour of the day. And number 8, a limit on the sound mixer is not an acceptable fix while speakers remain aimed at us. Number 9, in response to complaints, police should arrive at our homes with a sound meter and the intent of issuing citations. Compliance should be expected always, not just when we become irritated enough to call police. And number 10, stadium lights must be properly directed downward. I want to emphasize that the most crucial pieces to a lasting solution are optimizing speaking positions and clarifying and following the noise code. On behalf of 64 residents of my neighborhood, I hope that council will act to evaluate and amend relevant sections. I appreciate your time, understanding, and cooperation. And thank you, and I certainly would answer any questions. And I'd like to provide you with a relevant diagram of the stadium and this list of needed changes.
Thank you. You have a short word. Please. Thank you. Yes, Ms.
Well, good evening. My name is Jennifer Grundy. I live at 302 Rockwood Drive. I'm a neighbor of Jackford Park. And I live right above the visitor bleacher, so I hear all the noise that comes up. I'm here to ask you for some common courtesy for those of us that live around the stadium. Would you want loud music playing in your backyard? Sometimes as early as 6 a.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. on weekends. Would you want to go on your deck on the weekends to hear blaring rap music with very questionable lyrics? Would you want to be woken up late at night because someone in the field decides it's time to play their favorite song, and that's been at like 10, 11 o'clock at night? Would you want to hear swearing in your backyard before the sun is even up? On pretty much every weekday. I can tell you for sure you would not. I invite every one of you to come to my home and try to enjoy a beautiful weekend out on my deck when you hear the music blasting and all you're trying to do is do yard work or relax from a busy week. You can't even talk to your neighbors. You can't have your windows open in your house. Trust me, there are things we do enjoy, and it's part of the charm of where we live. The Friday night football games and the marching band are a yearly reminder that fall is here. The national anthem being played. Our next door neighbor stops everything she was doing, puts her hand on her heart and sings along, and has taught my children to do the same. Over the years, I have complained to many Lake Erie College athletic directors. Every spring, we are told the same things again. We've been told it's not that loud. We've been told the kids need to psych themselves up. The kids need to learn how to deal with distractions. That's why the music's being played so loud. We've been promised things will change, and for a short time they did, and then it goes right back to what it was before. I'm asking for whoever uses the stadium to be a respectful neighbor. I think it is pathetic that I have to miss my Monday night yoga class to come here and ask for the current noise ordinances to be enforced, and that we have to have a discussion at a city council meeting. I'm sure if I were as disrespectful to my neighbors as the stadium is to us, I would have been dealt with quickly a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. We'll look into it. And we have right now, we have our coloring contest proclamations for Keep Painesville Beautiful. We have a poster contest, and so I'm going to present these out. So our first proclamation. For Melanie Grace, with her first place poster, which is very beautiful. I want to congratulate you on behalf of Painesville City and our city council on finding out that you guys done, and we have a proclamation for you, and please read it. Whatever. Thank you very much for your. Congratulations. Well done. Our next proclamation is to Xavier Williams. Thank you. On behalf of Painesville City and City Council, we would like to congratulate you on your first place on your poster contest. We're very proud of you. Here's your proclamation, but let's get a picture. Next one, next proclamation goes out to Brissa Zelpio Soto. Congratulations. On behalf of Painesville City and our City Council, we'd like to give you this proclamation on such a fine job you did for first place on your Keep Painesville Beautiful. And we'd like to get a picture of you if you don't mind. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, we have another proclamation for Noah Webster. Recognition for your fine job, your beautiful poster that you did for Keep Painesville Beautiful. I think we will congratulate you. That's for a second. And on behalf of Painesville and our City Council, we'd like to congratulate you with this proclamation on a fine job you did. Thank you. Hey, Doug, are you up for film? All right. Lastly, we have Nadia Cornet. Congratulations for your beautiful poster. On behalf of Painesville City and our City Council, we'd like to present you with this proclamation and have a beautiful job on your poster. Just turn around. So we really appreciate all the effort you guys have done with these posters and Keep Painesville Beautiful. Thank you. Moving to our committee reports, BZA.
The BZA met on November 21st. There were two administrative appeals for the demolition of properties, one at 223 Chestnut Street, which was postponed at the request of the attorney. The second one was 41 West South Street. There was a motion by Mr. Callender and seconded by Mr. Briggs to grant a request of the applicant to modify the demolition order by approving the demolition order subject to the following conditions. One was that they shall post a $22,500 bond or cash or a letter of credit to ensure that the house is torn down should they not complete the requirements of what they were requesting. The applicant requested 6 weeks to sell the home, and at the end of 6 weeks, if they did not sell the home, they would have 60 days to actually demolish the property or make the improvements to the property. If they sold the home, the new owner would be required to put up the bond, same bond for $22,500 to ensure the demolition of the property. And they would have 6 months to complete the foundation work and repair or replacement of any utilities within the property. So that was the order, and it began on November 20, it started November 21st, so they had 6 weeks from that date to sell the property. They had it listed, so, and it was approved by all the members of the board.
So,
No?
you got
Yes.
address 41 South Street?
41 West South Street, yes. It's a duplex, and there's foundation issues and a variety of different issues.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your BZA report.
Thank you.
We'll move into legislation.
Seniors,
Oh, sorry, yes. Seniors.
you have a senior moment?
Forgot you had one. Jim.
Oh, there we go. On the 25th of November, we met with the senior leadership and had a fruitful discussion. We also, when we left, said that we would create quarterly meetings, and that is currently being set up as we speak. And we'll be coming back with council for a little bit more once we have some time to spend a little bit more time with the current seniors.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
what about the direction that they're going in? With the village concept, do you want to share anything about that? Because that's kind of a new direction.
Well, we could. Last year, the seniors went, did you want to?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, okay, we'll jump in if I don't get, and Katie, same thing, don't hesitate to fill in the blanks. Last year, the seniors tried to do a senior center without walls. And basically, they were trying to provide activities for seniors, even though they didn't have a facility. So they were working with other agencies to provide those type of activities. This year, when we sat and talked with them, there's another concept that they're looking into. It's called creating a community village, a village concept. And the village concept, there's a lot of baby boomers, seniors, that they're in need of help. They're trying to stay in their homes, but they're having a hard time either with general maintenance, transportation, things of that nature. And what this project would do would create a list of volunteers similar to Meals on Wheels, where meals are delivered to seniors who have a hard time getting out or having a hard time preparing meals for themselves. And if a senior had a project in their house, whether it was electrical or plumbing or just some general yard maintenance or something of that nature, that they would have a list of volunteers that the senior would be able to call into this village concept, and hopefully there'll be enough volunteers to get the activities done. And it has merit due to the fact that in the next several years, there's going to be quite a few more seniors in our area that need affordable housing as well as help. They cited a couple examples where their children have moved to other locations in the United States. And so if they're living in California, if they're living in Maryland, and their parents need some help, and obviously it's very hard for those individuals when they live that far away to help their parents on a weekly or daily basis. And so this program is designed to help fill that need.
And I would add that they're trying to fill a niche that other agencies don't already provide. So they're not trying to recreate things that are already available to seniors, but find the things that aren't available to seniors and fill in those
And as you know, it was nice that Lake Tran, that passed, and a large portion of that passage was the fact of providing dial ride for our seniors, which is an expensive proposition, but it's not, when you look at the service it is providing, it's not that expensive due to the fact that it's providing transportation for seniors to either stay in their home so that they can go to social events, getting groceries, the doctor's appointments, things of that nature. So obviously we need to look out for our seniors as our community and our government.
Well, Jim, I think it's important to add that they are exploring the opportunities of outside senior centers with walls to fill the activity niche while they do the village concept. They're not
Right.
trying to compete.
Yeah. And that's why I think in the near future here, we'll be coming back to a council meeting and disseminating a little bit more information on the direction. Maybe even ask the seniors to come and give a little presentation as the direction of the current Painesville Senior Center.
Any other questions from council? Thank you for the report. At this point, we're going to move into legislation. If you wish to comment on the legislation, you must request to do so at this time. Those making such a request will be called upon after the reading. Any dialogue must be conducted through me as president of council. Although your comments or questions be addressed to the council, administration, or both. When called upon, please use the podium. Remember, clearly state your name and address into the microphone and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Ordinance number 1. Ordinance number 2. Ordinance number 3. Ordinance number 4. Ordinance number 5. Ordinance number 6. Sorry, ordinance number 1, third reading.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into agreement with the Board of Lake County Commissioners requesting the services of the building inspector of Lake County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
This legislation basically would allow us to enter into an agreement with the Lake County Commissioners for building services. As council is aware, we have operated a building department for a number of years. It is becoming more and more difficult to hire people with the necessary licenses that are required through the Ohio Board of Building Standards. As a result of that, we reviewed the building department and are recommending that we move to Lake County Building Department. They would perform all functions of our current building department. They would approve plans, drawings, specifications, and data, and issue electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and general construction permits, and conduct all inspections for any and all residential and commercial buildings, structures, and units constructed and reconstructed within the city. There would be roughly $100,000 savings by moving to Lake County Building Department. $20,000 of that would be out of the general fund. Lake County Building Department would charge fees for services, and that's how they would recover their costs. This item is currently on third reading, and we're recommending approval by City Council tonight.
I have a question real quick. The $100,000 savings, is that after the loss of income for the permits and whatnot?
Yes.
Yes, it's in that $3,000.
Wonderful, thank you.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Denato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes. Ordinance number 1 approved. Ordinance number 2, second reading.
An ordinance amending chapter 1303 of the Painesville Code of 1998 relating to chief building official and declaring an emergency.
As a result of the last legislation that was passed, it's necessary to address every reference to building official or chief building official within our current code. The proposed legislation would enable the city manager or designee to serve as the chief building official in accordance with any and all requirements of the Ohio Board of Building Standards. It also removes section 1303.02, permits or fees, because we will no longer be collecting fees. In addition to that, it requires a certificate of occupancy. And the purpose of that is to ensure that people obtain their zoning permits or their various permits through the city. It requires that the certificate of occupancy be issued by both the building official and the zoning administrator. And again, basically it ensures that people do pull permits that are required to pull permits to ensure that they are in compliance with the zoning and design review and things of that nature. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So this is for council, I know we generally try to go 3 readings, but it sounds as though this gives the city the teeth for what we approved in ordinance 1. So it seems appropriate that we move to suspend and make a vote on this evening.
Correct.
Okay. So move to suspend.
Second.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes. Ordinance number 2 approved. Ordinance number 3, second reading.
An ordinance to approve and adopt the 2019 B codified ordinances, including new matter contained therein, and declaring an emergency. This can go 3 readings.
Questions or? We'll leave this on then for third reading. Ordinance number 4, second reading.
An ordinance to make appropriations for the current expenses and expenditures of the city of Painesville, state of Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2020, and adopting the operating budget and declaring an emergency.
This is the 2020 budget. This is the second reading. Valerie, if you could just put up that presentation, do the quick presentation for you. Hopefully it's not as painful as watching the Browns yesterday.
This one?
Yeah. The total revenues for the 2020 budget is just going to be just under $74 million. This is about $3.5 million less than it was in 2019. You'll see our taxes are going up about $1.4 million. A lot of that's due to the new police levy. Thank you, residents. Our intergovernmental revenues are going to go down about $7.4 million. $5 million of this is due to the water intake. The city is almost done with the construction of our new water intake, so we're going to be getting less grant money, $5 million worth less. So that's the main reason the intergovernmental revenues are down. And then the user fees are up about $2.4 million. This is mostly our water, sewer, and electric revenues. Next are the total expenses. The total 2020 budget will be just under $80 million. This is $4.1 million less than the 2019 budget. Let's see here. The utilities are going to be going up about $1.6 million. The main reason is the purchase power. This is for electric. It's going to be going up by $2.2 million. And our capital outlay for 2020 will be $13.6 million. This is a decrease of $6 million from 2019. Again, the main reason for this decrease is the water intake project is just about done. In 2019, we budgeted $8 million for this project, and in 2020, we're going to budget $3 million for this project. And then the last slide just shows where all the money is spent on. The city's largest expense goes to salaries and benefits. This accounts for about 37% of the total budget. Next largest expense is for the utilities. And again, most of this is the purchase power for the electric plant. And then the city's third largest expense is for capital outlay. We'll be spending 17% of our budget will go towards capital projects in 2020. This is our second reading. You guys are welcome to carry this over for another reading, and I'm here for questions.
Any questions or comments for Andy right now? Thank you. We'll leave this on for third reading. Ordinance number 5, second reading.
An ordinance amending section 167.09 of the Painesville Code of 1998 relating to the classification and compensation plan and declaring an emergency.
All right?
Yeah.
This is the approval of the new city manager's contract as approved by council. It has it's a 3-year contract, and it runs through 2021. Right? Well, I'm sorry, well, we signed it the end of 2021, so it runs through the end of 2022.
Move to suspend.
Did you want to spend
Don't we have to?
Yes.
Second.
Can we explain that to our residents? Why
For contracts.
Mark's
Can't.
contract is over, expires as of December 11th.
Yes.
We will not have another council meeting between now and December 11th. So she can get paid, we're going to make sure she can get paid.
So we have a city manager.
So we have a city manager in charge.
Not that Doug can't do it.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mrs. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes, ordinance number 5 passed. Ordinance number 6, first reading.
An ordinance amending section 167.07 relating to the classification and compensation plan and declaring an emergency.
This is an ordinance that amends the SRO position from a classification of 12 to classification 14. As you may know, if you remember, the school is fully funding the new SRO position, and in hopes of gaining some greater candidacy, they have increased the pay grade, so we can try to attract some more qualified candidates for that position.
Yeah, so the school is requesting that we suspend this so that they can post the job and get someone in the middle school as soon as possible.
Any questions, comments, Katie? Need a motion then?
Motion to suspend.
Second.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. Denalo,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Mrs. Denalo,
Yes.
Mrs. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mr. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Fodor,
Yes.
Mrs. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes, ordinance number 6 passed. We have no unfinished business. New business, voice control.
That's me, but somebody has a presentation, so I'll wait for that.
No?
No, I got it, Andy.
Oh,
Okay.
I was like, I'll put it in.
Come on, please.
You're like, what?
say when Andy talks.
That's right.
They want to avoid that noise ordinance.
So the schools and college and the city have a longstanding collaboration where we continue to try to find a way to make our relationship strong and sustainable that benefits the entire community. So the basis of this presentation is going to kind of be around that theme. The Jack Britt Stadium usage history. So the city entered into a lease agreement with the Haynesville local city schools in 1990. The lease agreement was for football and track facilities for the school. In 2007, we did a sublease agreement with the schools and the college. It was a three-way agreement for football, track, and soccer facilities. And then 2008 and 2015 brought two amendments to that 2007 agreement. And the amendments, the primary use is still student athletics, but it did expand the use to scrimmages, intramural athletics, athletic practices, marching band practice, practice competitions for subleasees, athletic teams, conditioning events, camps, and clinics, and fundraiser events. We're going to talk about what Manon brought up in her public comment was in October 2018, there was an email sent to council, the schools, and city administration. The email came from a resident who went door to door to get signatures from her neighbors to protest the sound at the stadium. The two main complaints tied to the noise was orientation of the speakers and explicit lyrics of the songs. Immediately after receiving that email, we placed a directive in our police department to take decibel readings when called. For those who aren't aware of the noise ordinance, this is the decibel readings that are in the law. So our police department, recreation department, the schools, and the college started working on solutions together. So I'll actually pass this off to the schools to share some of the solutions that they've done, and then we'll come back and wrap back around to some of the other complaints. So, Sean?
Sure, you want me to come to the
Yeah,
podium?
come on up. You want to introduce yourself to council?
Yeah. I'm Sean Bell, I'm Director of Operations. Dr. Englehart's over here, the superintendent. My kind of main role at the school is mainly things non-educational. So if it's not directly delivered by a teacher, I probably have some kind of contact with it. So just from the beginning here, just kind of show you a lay of the land. This is the stadium itself, and up here to the right are the press boxes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. If you ever go over there, you'll notice there are other speakers around. There's only 4 active speakers right now. The rest are disabled and obsolete. There are 2 speakers over here that are not currently being used, and also near the light poles. So right now there's 4 speakers. Would you like to move? So, my notes here. So just from the very beginning, I want you to know that we have been very conscious of not only the design of our speaker system, but also that there could be some issues, a lot to do with just the terrain there. We have a bowl that can project sound out of it, and also the orientation of the homes towards the stadium. So we used a sound engineer to come up with our speaker plan. We kind of told them the issues, and they came up with a plan. It's actually the manufacturer of the speakers provided us with a sound engineer to consult. What they told us was that these speakers need to be mounted here, and they need to be mounted at a certain degree. So we had brackets created at that certain orientation. It's hard to see from here, but I tried to capture in a picture just how dramatic that is down, so that it's meant to broadcast over everyone's heads and then hit the center of the field. That's kind of the idea.
Am I allowed to make any comments on that?
So let's see.
Sorry, so
just want to make sure. Okay, so this is the old system.
Could we ask questions?
Yes.
Are the speakers currently, is this the way it's been? Let me rephrase it. How long has the speakers been directed over the head onto the field?
The football season of 2018, I think it was the second
Okay,
game
so
they were working.
it's been like a year and a half.
Yeah, about a year and a half. So before, if you go back to that first slide, if you don't mind, they were mounted up here. They still were mounted here, plus they were mounted on those poles. All those dynamic speakers were also part of it. So,
Also, I'm just curious as to why they were not mounted on the other side of the field.
would you go back to that slide? I'm sorry. I can.
On that, yeah, on this visitor side.
So there's a number of things that they're trying to do with sound in the stadium. A lot of it I can't speak to because I'm not a sound engineer, but there's different people in the event that needs to hear the sound, and it includes the players and the coaches and the refs, and even people like in a track event, the starting pistol, that all comes from the speaker system, and even the visitor side. So if we were to change the orientation, we'd have to probably use speakers in the front, speakers on the visitor side. We'd have to have some way to get sound into the field as well, and then also the addition of some kind of a sound for the starting pistol. And that would all be the additional cost of the school. And to point out, this configuration was not something we did in-house. Not only did we consult with an engineer on where to put the speakers, but a professional installed the speakers in the system. It wasn't something we did ourselves.
I would imagine that this problem is not just Painesville, that other schools have had the same thing.
Yes.
Have you contacted other schools to see what they have done?
This is a really typical installation in a stadium for a high school. In fact, one of the newer stadiums, Spire, if you were to go there, all of the speakers are behind the spectators. So this is the old cabinet, and I'm going through kind of the upgrades to it. This system, this would be what it looked like when the initial sound complaints were coming in. This system, anyone that got into that building could access this system. They could plug anything in from an iPod or their computer. There really was no way to secure it. And a lot of it has to do because it's very old technology. So literally, someone could go in there, pull out a wire, and plug in their device and play whatever they wanted to. So there really was no control. So now we have a lock sound cabinet. And if you look over here, we've upgraded the mixer. This is the mixer here. This is a faceless mixer. The only way you can access the sound system now is through an authorized device, and we chose people's personal cell phones. And they need to be on the wireless network in order to do that. So we take their unique ID of their personal device, and we register it with the mixer, and that's the only way to turn this system on. Now, with this mixer, we're able to not only kind of narrow down who uses it, but also narrow down the times, and also how loud the system can get. So those are all things that, and this is relatively new. This took us a little while to get finished. So we're talking, this just finished right after the football season was over. We were able to get this system in.
This year?
Yeah, this year, yeah. It took some time for us to do this portion of it.
Just to clarify, there's only a few users whose cell phones are coded into that. And
That's right.
And only those users can now.
That's right, and we are able to tell who adjusts this system and who's in it. So now there's another layer of accountability there. If someone goes out there, a coach decides to blast music at 5 a.m., we're going to know exactly who it was, but also that would be very difficult to do because we can set parameters on the system and say you can only turn this on at 10 a.m. Now the only limitation with this is it will not turn off someone if they're already using the system. So if they get to 11:30 and they're going beyond an hour and a half, this system won't turn off, but we'll know who it exactly was using at that time.
Do other users of the field have access to this system, or is this strictly PCLS?
They have access if we registered their system. So there's a few a few coaches at Lake Erie College have gone over this, but I have a spreadsheet with device information. So everything comes through to my office, and then what has to happen is the sound engineer actually has to physically go out to the field, to the box, to program them in. It's not something we can do remotely. So I think this is important to see as well. So this is that bowl shape that you've all been out there. The homes sit just a little bit above, as far as I can tell, if not level with the press boxes. I went out to here, actually your residence, right next to it, yeah. I think it's right about here, right, where there's kind of like that's as close as I could get from that hill. It's a great place to check decibels. And we turned up the system to like probably where it would be during a game, and then went up as high as we could go. We actually went up until the system blew a fuse, just to see kind of what the range is for the system. So
What is the range?
I got to about 66 decibels. That was the highest that I was able to get, and that was at, I mean, like I said, the system was extremely loud and it blew the system, so we probably get to around 75% at most, and that was around, I think it was 50 to 54 decibels, at 75%.
What was allowable decibels there?
Can the users who have access to the device, can they take it up as high or low?
No, we can limit that down.
That's limited now.
So, and that's one of the reasons we did that test, and kind of get an idea of where that limit would be.
Sure.
So even at 75%, it's very loud. You know, you can hear everything. So we could bring it down even more.
So when you say it's 70, you're talking 75% capacity of the system, which is about 50 to 55 decibels.
Yeah, right. But it's not. So what we discovered though is that I don't even know what the proper term is, but 50% of the system isn't like 25 decibels, and 100% isn't 50 decibels. Like it doesn't really vary like that. I guess it's more like a bell curve where you have the decibels down here, as you go higher, it might be really steep and then level off. So it doesn't necessarily equate to a decibel level, but.
So currently, if the team is practicing at 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night, do they have accessibility to the PA system?
They do not now, no.
Okay.
No, they do not.
So what are the time frames then?
Well, I don't think we've said any other than the certain users that we have.
Okay.
They're not the ones going down there at Rec Park right now, so I think that's the biggest thing. So part of the issue was trying to figure out a way to, there was lots of moving pieces in this. So we have people that are using it when they're not supposed to, trying to figure out how to limit that. And part of that process is the mixer, and then also being able to hold people accountable. And then the other part was just the capacity of the system, how loud can it go? You have to understand that previously you had a system that was old and the speakers really are not the same quality, so they had to be much louder in order to hear things like the spoken word. Well, now that's very different. They're much clearer now than they were before, so we can have them a bit lower. So I think some of this is just dialing it all in too. All right, good enough? Okay.
It's interesting because at the time that was state of the art.
Yeah, right. It changes.
Mr. Fuller
May-
remembers that.
May I add a comment to Sean's?
Sure.
So I just want to say, our approach to this, we've shared in this frustration too. And this is one thing we've been working on for a long time, but we just haven't found a solution that works for everybody. And our approach has not been, oh, well, we believe that we're within the ordinance, so there's not a problem. Our effort is to be a good neighbor, regardless of the situation. So that's the way that we've approached this. I just want it to be said. I don't dismiss in any way the discomfort that is being experienced by the residents. We've been working real hard at this, and there are significant expenses associated with all this. So we have to balance, as a school district, we have to balance the need to be good neighbors and good members of the community with the need to be good stewards of public dollars too. So it's been a difficult process.
One of my questions is, do we think when we go back to the slide that listed all of the users now that this opened up to when we started, working cooperatively with like Erie College, did we overdo it? So there's too many events going on?
There were too many hands in the cookie jar. The new mixer whittles it down to as few as we choose to allow. And right now,
But it's
I
not
understand
just-
that about the noise, but what I'm talking about is the amount of, if you go back, I think it was slide 2, there's a list of all of the people now who can use it. There's intramurals, there's all kinds of things going on. Yeah, that's it. So, did we do too much in allowing all of that, is my question.
yeah, the short answer is yes. The field has been overused.
But I think when I'm looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I'm looking at the amendments, we should not make the assumption, or we should not make the assumption that each one of those events they may be now using the machine, the speakers, but in the future, they will not be. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So in other words, we see these amendments, and maybe we are overusing the field in a sense, but we're not in the future going to overuse the noise. We're going to skinny that back, so not every one of those amendments in the primary use will be able to access that speaker.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I think there's two parties here, but obviously this college is the third party. And historically speaking, the college has been more of a louder organization down in Rec Park than the schools have been. So how's the college being brought along with this?
Yeah. So,
I mean, are you meeting with the athletic director?
yeah.
And don't take this wrong, but it's usually better if the people that are working on it on a daily basis are the ones that are interacting and not the superintendent and the president of the college.
Yeah, that's right.
Just
Yeah,
from
so
past
the athletic
experience.
director has been heavily engaged. The difficult thing that we've had in the past is with so many people using the field, and we've spoken about some of these issues connected in other ways. There's always, well, we think you did that. Well, we think you did that kind of thing.
Well, the other thing is the college has had some turnover as of late from athletic directors to coaches and things like that. So that organizational memory of history and how things, were done, that's where it's important for all three of us to make sure that we're all on the same page. Because I think everybody wants to be a good neighbor.
I would say after the October 2018 petition came in, the college has been much more involved in the conversation.
Okay.
The college, the school, and the city have met on occasion, and I would say we had a very come-to-Jesus moment, I think, with the college. And since we've had that conversation, they have been a much better participant in this conversation and continue to be a good participant in that conversation.
And I'd add, our current agreement with the college for field use expires December 2020.
Right,
So
which
we'll
will
be
come up
kind
in
of
our options
negotiating
at the
Okay.
end that we'll talk about. The city and the schools obviously have a little bit more leeway since we do have to renegotiate our lease contract. So it was a 30-year lease. So, the school, college, and city did respond to the petition. We received an email back in November stating that many of my neighbors' concerns have been addressed, and we have noticed significant improvements as the athletic season ends. She did add that her main concerns continues to be early morning and late night practices. Since the large complaint in 2018, we have received some complaints, mostly minor. We pulled all the police files in 2019. There were 6 complaints. They came from 2 homes. Decibel readings were taken when noise could be heard when our officer showed up. I went through all of my emails and files, and I found 3 complaints tied to Rec Park. I obviously have more noise complaints than just 3, but these were the 3 tied to Rec Park. Same 2 homes that shared the police files. In April, the school tested the system after 9 p.m. and Dr. Engelhardt did apologize to the residents. In August, the city manager allowed a deck hockey tournament to occur at night. It was the first year to try that out, and obviously with complaints, we probably won't proceed. And then in October, a sub-leasee decided to bring their own speakers, and this triggered a whole nother conversation. Next slide. The city, schools, and colleges received another email in November of 19. The email was sent by the same petitioner of October 2018. She asserted the safety director was negligent in her duties under ordinance 539, section 7, because this section pertains to variances. I did share that my understanding of ordinance 539 is that under section 10, the school is exempt. Organized school-related activities or parades or other public programs, activities or events authorized by the safety director or its designated representative. So I have never signed a variance tied to any activities down at the football field because they're exempt under that section of the ordinance. Plus they're given the right to use it under the 3 or 4 agreements that we have with our subleasees. So the schools have continued to strive to be a good neighbor. As you can see, they've invested quite a bit of time and money to try to solve these issues. Every time a complaint comes in, we need to try to address that complaint. I know council did ask to bring some options forward, so the number 1 option is to leave the ordinance as is, as well as all other agreements that govern the use of land as it is today. The second option is to leave the ordinance as it is, but direct the city manager to negotiate use of sound when we negotiate our new sublease, which is up in December of 2020. Or council can amend the ordinance, but this is going to take a lot more conversations because the ordinance doesn't just affect the stadium, it affects the entire city. It would also affect the city's ability to do our day-to-day. It affects when we can mow lawns, it affects when construction can go on, it affects a lot of things in the city, so we have to dive a little bit deeper in what exactly you want from your noise ordinance. That's all.
Any questions from council?
So I would add, this has been an issue far before 2018. I know I've been in the house since 2010, and this has been ongoing since that time. I can remember as far back as 2011 calling and complaining about vulgar music, having communications with the college's community person, and their police department and things like that, contacting our police department. And one of the things that I think that is frustrating to us, and I think Amanda brought this up in her discussion, was at some point we were reassured that if we contacted the police, a decibel meter would be brought and individuals would be cited. And that is not happening. When we call the police, oftentimes they're going down to the field and saying, hey, heads up, you're too loud, and everybody's just correcting it at that time. But ultimately, there's no accountability for whoever is violating the noise ordinances and causing the problems. And so I think when we look at this, I appreciate, and I put no responsibility on the school for this. I think that you guys have been incredibly proactive, you've been great in working with us, but I think ultimately that as a city, we have put a Band-Aid on an issue that has been ongoing for 9 years, if not longer than that. And so I guess my frustration comes from that the residents have been calling frequently. I mean, I've had days where I've walked out and talked to 3 of my neighbors, and all 3 of the neighbors called the police at the same time that I've called the police because the noises have been so loud. And ultimately, a police officer goes down and tells them to turn it down, and then they come up and tell us everything's fine. It's not fine if we're having to all call the police constantly to bother them to do a decibel test. To the best of my knowledge, a decibel test has only been done once. I don't know if it's been more frequent than that, but we were reassured 3 or 4 years ago that that's the process that would take place when there was a noise disturbance from the park.
Well,
one thing I didn't see was a comparison chart. I saw the data from the amount of calls in 2019, but I didn't see any data from before that. So I don't know how much the changes that the city schools made has been affecting, because I don't have anything to compare to. But the other thing that I'm thinking is that really Rec Park is an important community pool. And I think that the events down there, including the deck hockey, are a big part of what we want to accomplish as a city. And I do want the park to be actively used. So as I'm thinking about this, I'm wondering about a sound barrier. And I know that it's probably be a pretty expensive thing, but it would be something I would be interested in hearing or looking into. And that would be, I mean, I think about the freeways, what they have done to buffer noise is with walls and stuff like that. And I wonder what kind of, not excluding anything the schools have done and the contract negotiations and all that, but I wonder if you were getting some kind of information on what kind of barriers could be created or buffers could be created and what kind of cost that would be for us as a city.
Well, and Lori, I would add, I think that the majority of the residents are fine with the usual and customary noises associated with the athletic events that occur in that facility. It's the extraneous, unnecessary noises of music that is disruptive.
And I don't disagree with that, but what I would say is that the more people that use that field, you have the creative aspect of bringing your own speakers. The more people that use the area, the park in general, the more commotion we have down and the more risk that you have that somebody is going to be doing something. And number one, I don't want to tie up our police department in running out there all the time. And number two, I don't want to continually frustrate our residents. So it's just a thought on my end to see what something like that would cost and if it could be,
It's one option to look at. The other thing is noise levels in Rec Park as well as activities down there. We go back to the 80s and it's been a concern at different times. It raises every couple years and then people address it and then another 10 years go by and then it needs to be addressed again. And I think we're in that cycle now that obviously it needs to be addressed. But I think that, with the technological advances and able to not play the music speakers at certain times, and then also the volume level, but I also think like Katie's saying, if people are going beyond that, then obviously at some point in time tickets will need to be issued. I mean, if we're trying to stop speeding, how do we do that? We set up a speed gun and let people know that they're speeding on Skinner Avenue, and then we leave that up for a week, and then after that, the chief sets somebody down there and he passes out a few tickets, and then the next thing you know is, for a couple of years, we don't hear about speeding on Skinner Avenue. So I think at this moment in time, we don't want to overreact, but we don't want to underreact, because obviously we want to be good neighbors.
So,
But I know before, as it was handled, in terms of between the schools and the college, and again, there was a long-standing, more of a relationship, because the people that were there on the school level and the people that were there at the college level were there longer, and they got to know one another a little bit more, and so they had a better, longer working relationship, and they were able to rein in coaches, so to speak, at certain times, and prevent the noise at inappropriate times.
Christine?
So, everything that you discussed with us tonight in your presentation, I forgot your first name.
Sean.
Sean, thank you, is going forward. It's not something that we've had since this football season started. So at this point, we are not sure, we're not having a lot of football down there, or are we?
No.
So we're not really sure how this is going to work. But in your opinion, if we limit the number of events, and Katie mentioned accountability, your new system is going to be able to tell you exactly who had what down there and how loud it was, and so you're gonna be able to give feedback, or, I don't wanna say reports, but you'll be able to data back to us when we have these types of complaints.
I have to check about the data. I'm not sure what data I can get, but I definitely would be able to tell you who was there.
What was there?
Right, I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily guessable data and so on and so forth, but if Coach XYZ had blaring terrible language, and we get a complaint, you're gonna know it was Coach XYZ because it was between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. That's kind of the data that I'm talking about.
Yep.
So you feel that the accountability issue that Kate was talking about has been addressed, and we will have to see if it truly does, if there are repercussions from the individuals. Now, my second question, someone also mentioned that they bring their own speakers down there. So when you bring your own speakers, they're at ground level, so how do you prevent that? What's your plan for presenting that?
So
I don't know what they do.
at this point, it's really one subleasee that we're having problems with, and it's not the school or the college, so don't think it's either one of them. It's a subleasee of the sublease. The school and the city have had pretty extensive conversations about no longer allowing them to use the field. If they do not want to follow our rules, they should not be allowed to use the field.
So when you think about it and you listen to everybody's discussions up here, where do you think this is going to roll out? Do you think you've addressed an issue close and come next? When's the next, are we going to do stuff in spring, track? What do we do? When's the next
Yes,
big
track.
bash down there?
Well, Lake Erie College has lacrosse season coming up,
Lacrosse?
which starts in about January, February.
So at that point, we're going to be able to say,
Let's see if it's working.
see what it's working, and then do we have somebody come, Katie, do we have somebody come back and talk to us about it, how that first thing went? I mean, I don't necessarily want to wait to hear the residents call and say,
There still will be some
fine tune.
fine tuning that we can do, so.
Okay, and that is the expectation that you will, that that's going to.
Yeah, we have dedicated an officer from our police department to help with the decibel readings as they're tweaking this new system. So there is a extensive partnership going on to make sure that the decibel readings stay within the ordinance.
If there is a decibel reading and it's beyond the ordinance, have we informed the coaches what the cost, would the coach be the one or the person?
So as I'd like to point out, under the exemptions, the school-related activities are exempted.
School related, not college related, correct?
No, school. It doesn't state,
Well, I think there was a distinction, or there used to be a
in
distinction.
the ordinance, there is not. Through the definition and through this portion,
Okay.
there is not. This was created back in 1982. There's no distinction between,
No,
High
at that
school,
point in time,
college.
it was just the school.
but,
So the school by,
but under the definition section, it
Exactly.
does not state, we can debate, me and the law director can debate this later.
okay,
But even if, under their sublease agreement, there is no one for me to cite because they are exempt from the ordinance.
So if there was to have accountability, we as council and as residents would depend on the school to do the thing.
Correct.
Okay.
then,
Or
Change it.
when we renegotiate our sublease by December of 2020, we have accountability within the sublease. So you don't have to change the ordinance, but the accountability can be built into the negotiations of the sublease.
we're saying current agreement does not have anything in it about noise levels
No.
or maintenance?
Nothing. Maintenance of the facility and that kind of stuff is spelled out very explicitly. Sound, noise, no, there's nothing built into the sublease.
But there wasn't something about use of the facility, and it's, I'm trying to think how it was worded.
I have all 4 agreements right here. If you want to read them.
Maybe at some point in time,
It only talks about, there's absolutely no mention of noise in the sublease agreements. Lease or sublease
Okay.
agreements, or amendments.
Thank you, Katie and
Do we have any kind of next steps on this issue?
So, I have renewed hope from the schools for their secured control system. I know that anywhere from 302 to 328, you are more than welcome in our backyards at any given time. You can even come into the front of my house in my bedroom on the second floor, where I generally can make out words when the sound is loud, so that you can experience it at any time. But as far as moving forward, I feel as though this is something we should leave on the table until spring, when the noises are returning. Knowing that we've had these conversations, that these communications are open, that everybody has been heard. But I don't know how everybody else at the table feels.
I would be okay with leaving it on. I mean, I can hear Riverside's band, and I live on Charlotte Street. So,
The band is fine. I'm fine with the marching band. I'm not okay with the 7 a.m. T-Pain.
well, I understand that, but, you know, when you start limiting things, so I think that we do need to go slowly on this.
Yeah.
But again, we want to be good neighbors.
Here's my question for council.
And I question if there wasn't something in the agreement that somewhere along the way, that it was couched, that the college had to be good neighbors. And the language is escaping me, because again, this is not anything new to schools.
I guess I'm wondering from council, as far as leaving it on the table, is if council feels that our administration and the schools have taken a good direction on this at this point, why not take it off the table and bring it back on the table? Should the administration decide that it needs to come back, or the complaints come back? I mean, it's winter now, we're gonna have lacrosse in January, we're gonna be looking at it in September, or
I'm sure
When
Kate
the
could be a
police
litmus
starts.
test for us, that if things aren't going well, she would turn.
Well, and
to
when I say on the
you.
table, I don't mean literally on the agenda.
okay, thank you.
I'm saying like, we need to keep this on our list of things that we need to follow up on moving forward.
Yeah, we need to be alert about it. All right.
So you would like to take it off new business?
Yes.
Just for further clarification, did you want me to look into engineering of sound barriers and bring back numbers, or was that just?
I don't feel it's necessary. If
No,
we can get
I
the
do
music
not feel
under
it's
control,
necessary.
if we can get the music under control, I believe the majority of neighbors will be happy with that. I'm seeing head nods. I think if we can get the unusual, uncustomary sounds regulated, things will be better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May I add something?
Sure.
When's the lease up?
December 2020,
A year from now.
So it's, how long was it, 30 years?
30 years.
I wrote,
That's what
here's the thing.
Just flush out.
Another option is that we could fast forward in terms of renewing that and attempt to structure something that addresses this particular issue. And there's nothing that says that we have to run that lease to the end of the lease. We could renew that lease with something before that time, so it's something to think about also.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Does Katie have to take that off then?
I think I already did. Can you take that off of new business? Thank you.
Okay, department presentation, finance. Andy.
Yeah, we're done.
We got it.
Before I get on these toes.
Administration report, law director,
I don't know.
city manager,
I have nothing further.
clerk of council.
The next regular council meeting will be held Monday, December 16th at 7:30. Wednesday, December 4th is story time with the city manager. December 9th is the Painful Lights Contest. January 9th is Founder's Day Breakfast at Lake County College. And January 25th is the Community Chili Cook-Off from 1 to 3:30 at United Methodist.
Closing comments, Tom?
I'm good, thanks, Paul.
Katie?
I just want to thank all my neighbors for coming out tonight and helping to drive the narrative home. And also we love the activities that happen down there. As Jen said, it signals fall for us when we start hearing the marching band. So I appreciate everybody working together on this.
Lori?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody to consider shopping at our local retailers for their Christmas holiday gifts. I know I got a few items today, so I've been running here and there, trying to pick up little things. And also share that I had the opportunity to use Lux Auto Spa for the first time. And I think that my car is now on Facebook. It was in pretty bad shape. It hadn't been waxed for quite some time. And it looks really good. They did a great job, and they are very courteous. They will bring your car, they'll pick your car up from you at work, and they'll bring it back to you. They have a lot of customer service, friendly customer service orientation. And something else to think about, a lot of these businesses really slow down after December. So, save some of your money for after Christmas.
And one of the owners is a Harvard graduate.
I know, yeah, that is good. So, that's all I have, thanks.
Thank you. Christine?
I'm good.
Jim?
The budget is always an interesting thing. And, as we look at 2020, our general fund is going to be running 300,000 in deficit. The electric is 177,000 deficit. The water is 15,000 in deficit. We have two surpluses, 45,000 for stormwater and 92,000 for water pollution control. I guess as we head to 2020, I guess what I've been toying around in my head is we do have two committees, the Finance Committee and then Economic Development, that, we establish these committees and then maybe we give them some goals that the Finance Committee keeps a close eye on numbers, and it provides through our Economic Development Committee goals for 2020 and 2021 that what economic development we need to have. And the hardest thing for me is always trying to determine is, what about economic development, and are we headed in the right direction? I mean, you can take a look at income tax and what dollars are generated, but I know that the council has a pretty aggressive agenda for capital projects and facilities, and we're looking at a fire station, we're looking at upgrades, and how do we meet the needs that we currently have, but also, we were talking about a fire station for 10 years that I've been on, and there was 2 years before that there was a levy, I think, attempt for it, and it didn't make it. So I think just planting the seed here that maybe council, as we get 2020, is we start taking a look at it, how do we make some of these goals reality? And it might take us 3 or 5 years of putting some money away, but then, pulling the trigger down the road a little bit. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Nick?
I just want to thank our residents and Painesville City Schools for coming in and speaking with us today. Congratulate the coloring contest winners. And since Kathy's in here, I want to thank you for putting on a great event now that the city's back in control of the shopping stroll. I thought it was great, and I was only there for the first beginning of it, but I heard a lot of positive comments, and I think it's going to be great as it grows with the city again. So, thank you.
I just want to let all the residents know December 9th, the PCIC will be out judging the holiday lights. Something new this year, we're going to give Hudson Park their own central award area for their lights, and so we're going to have 5 different awards on this based on that. And again, it's from 6 until 9 p.m. December 9th, which is a Monday. So I've seen some really nice lights out there.
How's Liberty Green's going to be?
Yeah.
Special privileges at high
We've
school.
never had a complaint about Liberty Greens.
Not a complaint.
Not a complaint. We've had several from Hudson Park. But just, they go above and beyond the lights. It's beautiful out there. It's going to shine. There's houses that dance. At this point, can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session being held in accordance with Article 2, Section 6.1, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official of the city, and in accordance with ORC 121.228 to consider confidential information related to marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal finance statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiate with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance in accordance with section 3735.67 of the revised code.
Easy for you to say.
Second.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Augustine?
Yes.
Mr. Fodor?
Yes.
Mrs. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mrs. Donato?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes, good, we brought you here.
So what's next?
Take care.
Close the cap, ma'am?